Welcome to Lesson 3. In this lesson, we're going to explore pitch, specifically the bass range of pitch, and we're going to add a bass line to our drum beat from last week's session. So to get started, we're going to go to File and Open and load in our sequence called Weekly. Let's click on it and press Open. And now I have my sequence loaded back in with my drum beat ready for me to add my bass line. Before we do that, we need to discuss a couple of things. First of all, we need to define what pitch is. So the easiest way to think about pitch is with high pitch sounds and middle range sounds and low pitch sounds. So for example, if we put it into animals, a high pitch sound would be a mouse squeaking. A middle range animal would be my own voice. That's a mid-range sound. And a low range animal would be something like a lion or a deep whale sound. So that helps you visualize what pitch is. So the area of pitch we're going to look at today is called bass, and that sits in the low pitch range. Now, before we start to program our bass line, I just need to talk to you briefly about musical keys and scales. Musical keys and scales are quite a big part of music when you learn to play an instrument. Now, we don't need to know too much about it in order to use YuStudio, but I do need to introduce it to you a little bit in order for us to do the next part of this lesson. So first of all, let's come up here and click on Key, and now you can see a list of the musical keys that are available. There are two different emotional flavors to these keys. We have major keys and minor keys. Major keys feel more triumphant and joyful and happy, and minor keys use different notes which make them sound sadder and beautiful, but in a dark way rather than a happy, joyful way. So what is a key? A key is the musical home of a song. It tells us which notes feels finished and settled. If a song is in C major, the note C feels like home. We also call this home note the root note of the scale. Now, a scale is a group of notes that belong to a key. It's like a set of notes that you're allowed to use that fit the key. So, to recap, a key holds the home note and tells us what scale to use in order to play most of the notes in our music. The notes that fit the key are the notes that most feel at home when we listen to the music. So don't worry if that didn't sink in too much for you. You really don't need to know too much about it other than to say, right now we're going to come here and click on A minor. So you can do that right now on your machine. It'll only take you a second. There we go. As soon as I click A minor, I get this extra options appear. We don't need to do anything with that. We're just going to click the blue box at the top where it says A minor, and now it goes away. So you should have done that too by now, I would have thought. So let's move on to adding the bass line. So now we're ready to create our bass line. But first we need to put an instrument in. The instrument we're going to use on new track is Subtract, the purple synthesizer. We click that and now we see our control panel. We're not going to mess around with this. We're going to use the preset it lands on. So let's just double click and put a clip in. And now we have a grid appear where we can put our notes. But you'll notice that it's similar to the drum grid, but also different. It's similar in that we still have our 1, 2, 3, 4 beats listed in our grid. But on the side here, instead of drum sounds, we've got notes, musical notes. And you can see the names of these. You can see if I hover over the names, it gives me a plus magnifying glass, which lets me, if I click and drag, zoom in and out on there. I can make it really thin and small and impossible to use, or I can find an area that's useful to me. So you can try just playing around with that if you want, or if you're happy with how it looks, just leave it as it is. The next thing I want to show you though is that, let's make it a little bigger, is that we have orange and blue dots on our notes. Now the reason that they're on the white notes is because of the key that I'm in. The scale of the key I'm in is all of the white notes. If I change it to a different one, like C sharp minor, it's going to ask me if I want to change the key. Yes. You can see now that some of the notes, some of the dots are on the black notes as well. Before we change back, the other thing I want to highlight to you is that we have notes that are blue across the grid and notes that are black across the grid. So the black notes are all the notes that don't fit the scale. So these blue ones are the scale notes, which are the notes that feel at home in the key. Don't worry if that doesn't make sense. It will, trust me. But it's really important when you make your own piece of music that you set a key, because if you're making multiple parts and you don't really need to know much about the key system other than to know that it's good to start on orange notes because they're the home note of the key. You can see that I'm in the key of C sharp, and here the orange dot is next to a C sharp note. So that's the home key of the scale. That's the note that every other note wants to come back to. So it's often good with a bass line to start from the root note or the home note of the scale. Now if I turn the scale off and have no scale, you can see that now I've got no blue lines or black lines to guide me. Now that's going to be a problem. If I just randomly put notes in and then put another instrument and randomly put notes in, it's going to sound weird. Let's get back to our A minor. And you can see that I have A2 listed as a root note. So if I tap A2, we can hear it. Now that doesn't sound very low to me. That sounds like a mid sound. So come over to the scroll bar over here on the right and drag down until I can see A1. That sounds much better. So we're ready to put our bass notes in. But before we do that, pause the video and put in your bass instrument and the clip ready to put the notes in, and make sure that you've set yours to A minor. Welcome back. Now that you've done that, you're ready to input your notes. Now we're going to use that same system of counting that we had in our beat between 1, 2, 3, 4, like so. We're going to put all of our notes on the A1. So if you haven't got A1 up, just scroll down with the sidebar. And we're going to put one on the first beat. Then we're going to miss 2 beats and put another one. So between beats 1 and 2, you've put 1, missed 2, and then put 1. So now we're going to copy that again. Between 2 and 3, I'm going to put 1, miss 2, and put 1. And then between 3 and 4, we're going to do the same. Put 1, miss 2, put 1. And finally, between beat 4 and bar 2, we're going to click, miss 2, put 1. So you should have a fairly symmetrical looking pattern going across like that, where it starts with 1, misses 2, then has 2, misses 2, has 2, misses 2, has 2, misses 2, and finishes with 1 again. Now we're ready to have a listen, see what that sounds like. See if it sounds like a good bass line to work with our drum beat. Here we go. I like it. It's got a good bounce. So that's our bass line added. Now we're ready to look at adding chords in the next session. So now we need to save weekly. And now we can experiment to finish the lesson with our own piece of music. I got mine from last time, my drum beat. So what I'm going to do is load my drums, which is what I called it. And there we are from the last lesson, the drum beat that I did at the end. And I'm going to add a bass line to it now to show you how you can do this. So now let's have a look at how we can add a bass line to the drum beat that I made last week. Now, first of all, I did finish by showing you how you could just make shapes and patterns and stuff, and that would still give you a good drum beat. But I don't actually want to use that. So I'm going to just delete that now by selecting it and pressing delete or backspace. And now I'm going to click on this light green triangle and drag the loop over like that. Let's have a listen now and see what I did last week. Now, I've just noticed that in my blue one here, let's double click on it, I've got these bass sounds and I think that's going to interfere with my bass. So I'm just going to take those out. So now I've got two different beats without that bass in. I'm going to try a new track again, but this time maybe I'll use the simple synth. Let's put the simple synth in and let's have a look at the presets, see if anything's called bass. There we go, solid bass. Let's see what that does. I'm going to double click and just loop around this first bar here. Now, I need to pick a key. Doesn't matter in many ways which key I pick in terms of the note one that I choose. It just matters whether I want to make a happy tune or a sad tune. So I think I do like the sad ones for some reason. So I think I'm going to go E minor here. And again, I'm just going to leave that alone. And now you can see I've got two home notes for the scale listed on my piano roll here. So let's start by putting a bass note in on one of those home notes. Let's do this lower one here. Now that doesn't sound very low to me, so I'm going to scroll down until I can see the next one. Double click that away and put it on this E1 here. Okay. Now the beat's quite slow, so it could be fun to maybe make the bass line go a bit faster. Boom, boom, ba-da, boom, boom, ba-da. Let's try something like that. Bob, bob. Sing it in. Bob, bob. Not quite. Bob, bob, ba-da. Bob, bob, ba. Bob, bob, ba. No. Bob, bob, ba. Got to find the next note. G. Let's put it here. No. Like it. Let's copy the pattern again for the second half. Nice. Okay, so that's a main little rhythm I got going there. Let's try some other notes using the blue lines to make sure that I keep in the correct scale. Yep, I like that one. Let's try A here. Not so sure on that one. Let's move it down one. Sounds too similar to that other one there. Let's go up higher. Quite like that, but if I'm going to keep that one, I think I might like to change this one here. Maybe a bit higher. And maybe this one comes down. That's good. I like that. Now, do I want all of these notes to be the same length, or do I want to make them a little longer? Let's have a look, because it will change the swing. That's good. Now maybe what I'll do is I'll come back to the instrument and I'm going to play around with the controls here. Let's grab filter, see what that does. Wow. It's changing the sound as I do it. And if I pull it back down, it's made it dull again. That's fun. I like this. What does glide do? Let's have a look. Oh, it's made it all slidey. That's gone too far. Oh, now it sounds like someone feeling seasick on a boat. Let's bring it back so we've still got some of the notes. I like the way it's going into it. What happens if we do the filter with that slide? Oh, fun, fun, fun. That's cool. Excellent. Maybe a different bass sound would be good. Is there any other bass sounds in there? Squelch down. What does that sound like? No, don't like that. Or that. No. No. That's quite good. Let's pull the filter down. Ooh. What happens with glide on that one? Haha, fun. Oh, that's very deep. We can make that really deep. That comes right the way out of our drum beat, doesn't it? So now I've got a bass line. Let's copy it over. Let's extend the loop and see what the whole thing sounds like together. Nice. Excellent. So that's ready for me to add something else to after next week's session. And that's how you can make a bass line and a beat that work together. Have fun, play around on your own. Remember, select a key, make sure it's on a new sequence, select your key, and just experiment. And most importantly, have fun. See you in the next lesson.